Yo, what's going on, everybody?
Hey.
Welcome to Face Mask Fantasy. Having a great Tuesday. What's going on, bro?
Yeah. Nice little start to the week.
Just an aside before we get started, we have been experiencing a few technical difficulties on our end.
Yeah.
I mean, we're streaming now, so there's not much that we can do about it. So we just got to keep it moving. But if we
bit of a lag. Hopefully it's,
just let us know in the chat if anything goes completely haywire, and then maybe we can start it over. But, yeah, let's keep it moving. What's going on, Rojo?
Yeah, we can do that. What's up? What's going on, Rojo? Yeah, hopefully there's no issues on the other end. I do see a little bit of a buffer, but we'll try to power through and hopefully no issues. Yeah, I mean, since we last talked, we are officially on under a month until the draft. And I would think that's what, we're up this year, 2 for 1 this year. And then the Eagles pick up also basically a third round pick, and then a first round pick next year and a second round pick in 2024. I think they made out great. The Eagles have been notorious for, not always picking poor selections, but you minimize the chances of blowing picks. Yeah, you can. You minimize your chances of blowing picks when you have more of them.
Very true.
So I think it's a good move. They still have 2 first-round picks this year. They add one next year when the quarterback class is presumably going to be stronger. They'll be in position to get one if they feel like Jalen Hurts isn't the guy. And they add a second in 2024 for good measure. For the Saints, they're doing one of two things. They are leapfrogging the Chargers to get an offensive tackle, or they are putting themselves in a better position to move up and get a quarterback this year, which would make some sense given the current state of their roster. Sean Payton's not there anymore. They could be low-key looking to start over despite re-signing Jameis Winston and still having some solid bets on that team. So we'll see. If they are if they made a move because they have their eye on a left tackle, I question why they decided to make the move now instead of waiting until the draft and seeing who's actually available at the pick that they were targeting.
Right.
But if it's for a quarterback, then it makes sense to accumulate some ammo, give yourself some extra time for negotiation. Point now, reaction to some of the transactions, some of the trades that have gone down. The NFL has finally embraced the idea of actually trading players. It took a long time to get to this point where you felt like this was the norm during the offseason, but this feels like how things are going to move forward. Teams aren't just going to stay saddled up to veterans when their team isn't good. The teams are more willing to embrace the idea of looking to the future. That was never the case in the NFL, which is interesting because I feel like even more now in this age of instant gratification that we live in, like coaches and general managers, they probably are feeling even more pressure to deliver. Interesting.
Win the Super Bowl, and the blueprint that they followed was, we don't care about draft picks. We care about getting the best players on the team to win right now. And there's ripple effects from that too, obviously. So yeah, man, it's gonna continue to be interesting. That's for sure.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
The Rams, the Rams continued to sell multiple firsts in deals to get veterans, like guys that are already good. I mean, the hit rate of draft picks is not as high as I think. Yes, both things can be true. It makes sense to stockpile draft picks, but also not. The hit rate of draft picks themselves is not necessarily high. So yeah, when you are a contender, it makes sense not to sell them. Maximize your window when you have a roster that's actually ready to compete. Draft picks, the ones that even do work out, even still take 2-3 years on average to players tend to take time to round into form and actually be able to help and contribute.
And I want to sorry to interject real quick. We had 5 people in. Now we have 1. I just want to double check before we continue. Rojo, if you're still in here, anybody else that's still in here, how are we looking?
Looks kind of like stream right now, and it looks like we're a little jumpy.
Yeah, Jason was
personally seen it buffering.
Yeah.
But we did reboot before the stream.
Right before the stream.
We were seeing,
yeah.
So it's,
And honestly, about an hour ago, I unplugged and replugged in my Wi-Fi extender. So I have no idea why this is happening, but it might be something where I need to reset the whole router modem situation at the house. But whatever, let's keep it moving. Chat, just let us know if the stream becomes unwatchable with the technical difficulties that we have been having.
Yeah,
but
sorry about this.
We can't keep talking about this. Let's get into some fantasy and hope the technology keeps up. But today,
course corrects.
Put today on the thumb, as you could see before you clicked on the video. Today we wanted to talk about some Dynasty discounts and a little bit of a preview on the 2023 draft class, considering everybody's trying to go and get 2023 draft picks. And it was brought up last week. Where would we expect the 2022 players to fit in if we were ranking the 2022 and 2023 classes together? What is the value, the true value of these 2023 picks, and can we put any players to pick value? So let's some of these Dynasty discounts, and again, let us know if the technical difficulties get too wild. But Nick, you wanna start us off with these Dynasty discounts?
I can give a name or two that I had in mind. And again, some of these, I feel like, generally speaking, we're not looking for a situation, the hit rate of draft picks and how it's just not as high as we wish they were, or maybe sometimes want them to be. The idea of acquiring picks is only as nice as until you actually turn it into players. And if the players don't pan out, then it just kind of lends credence to the idea of going out and getting a veteran that might be able to help you sooner than later if you feel like your team can compete. So with that being said, just taking a look at some guys on a couple of different platforms that have seemingly not bottomed out in value, but they have fallen in value. The first name that comes to my mind, and this is a younger guy, so he might not necessarily be cheap, but I feel like his price is currently kind of not as high as it should be. I got Rondale Moore as one of my guys.
Ooh, okay.
As a buy low. Rondale Moore as a buy low. Crubbly Heads, what's going on? Hopefully, we've been having some technical difficulties, but hopefully it's not too bad.
What's going on, Khalid?
Yeah, formerly known as. You already know. Rondale Moore. This is relatively simple. The Cardinals are a top 10 offense by pretty much any metric you look at. And Christian Kirk is gone. AJ Green is gone. Like, I guess, could AJ Green re-sign with the team? Maybe. But as of right now, he remains unsigned. And they did bring back another veteran in James Conner. So I feel like if they really wanted to bring AJ Green back, they maybe already would have done it by now. Rondale Moore's price relative to last year is very similar to... It's very similar. Sorry, I almost repeated myself. The price is almost the same this year as it was last year. And he basically gets, when players depart and they don't fill it with other players, that means the other guys on the depth chart are getting a promotion. They're getting a bump up. That's Rondale Moore. The second and third players in the pass catching game are gone. And now outside of DeAndre Hopkins and Zach Ertz, who else is available in that offense right now to catch passes? I don't think Rondale Moore is in any way, shape, or form. I feel like his value has not seen a bump. Therefore, I think you could maybe throw like a late second round pick for him. And that's a deal I would look to do.
Yeah, I mean, the team all offseason has talked about using him in a more varied role than he was used as a rookie because of the absence of Christian Kirk and to a certain extent A. Green, even though they could fill that role through the draft or just bring back AJ Green or go and get another player that operated like AJ Green, like a Julio Jones or something like that. Some discount player who can fill that field stretcher, big-bodied field stretcher type guy, something like that. But Rondale Moore, I mean, he's interesting.
They should have signed Auden Tate.
They should have. But Rondale Moore is absolutely interesting. He is a guy that I have thought about as an owner of Rondale Moore in Dynasty, seeing what I could get for him at least. And maybe that was a little bit misguided because I was reacting.
I don't even like the
to
idea of helping you, but I would tell you, don't do that.
Right. It was a misguided. Be like, maybe I'd be interested in seeing what I could get for him because I'd be selling low.
Yeah.
And I'd be selling without really knowing fully what I had in a player like Rondale Moore, who we should see him operate more, at least closer to his ceiling in 2023 for sure. Or 2022.
I'll give you 2/3 for him.
We'll talk about it, but no. No.
End of conversation.
But to speak a little bit about because you made the comment that rookie draft pick hit rate it's not a sure thing. We collect all these first round picks, all these high second round picks, and we expect them to turn into great assets every single time we hit the draft button. But at least in the metrics from 2012 to 2017, the first round hit rate is 45.8%. So if you have a first round pick and you're investing that in literally anybody that you're drafting in the first round, the hit rate is less than 50%. And in the second round, the hit rate, at least between 2012 and 2017, was 30.6%. So if you have a second round pick and you're thinking you're drafting a sure thing in the second round, you really only have a 30.6% chance of hitting on a player in the second round. And in the third round, it goes down even more. It's about 9.3%. So that is something that I often forget when I'm trying to compile this arsenal of draft picks to go into draft season with. And it's something that we should be reminded of. So if you can get a player like a Rondale Moore for a second round pick, do you think there's a 30.6% chance that Rondale Moore works out? Because if there is, and maybe that's a later second round pick, in which case the percent rate obviously is a lot lower than 30.6. It really might be a good idea to trade a late second for somebody like Rondale Moore if he's on the block. So yeah, I like that. I like that pick. I like that choice.
There's one. I have a varying degree of some guys are younger guys, some guys are vets. Just figured I'd kick things off with an intriguing name, somebody who may be flying under the radar as far as younger guys are concerned.
Well, speaking of younger guys who are flying under the radar, we're going back to wide receivers here, and I got Anthony Schwartz.
Okay, he's way. You're talking like you're fishing at the bottom, but hey. There's upside there.
Because everybody is in love with DPJ. I feel like the entire draft community is in love with DPJ. And there's a reason for that. I, too, like DPJ. In a league that we co-run, we went out and bought DPJ this past offseason before the Deshaun Watson trade. And the Deshaun Watson trade has done nothing but boost his future prospects, boost his value.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think we should be forgetting about Anthony Schwartz. Because he's faster than DPJ by a lot. He ran a 4.27 at his pro day. That's wild. that's wild.
That's speedy.
And all right, just how tall and how big of a receiver do you think Anthony Schwartz is?
I mean, he's not like.
Before I looked it up, I thought he was like 5'9", 5'10".
No, he's not little.
He's 6 foot, 186 pounds. He is exactly the archetype of wide receiver that Nick likes.
That's an ideal size, yeah.
Right. He's not the alpha outside wide receiver, but he's by no means the small gadget type speed player that I feel like he's been pigeonholed into by the fantasy community. I had no idea he was 6 foot. I thought, as an Anthony Schwartz owner, that he was 5'9", 5'10", 5'11".
Gotta know your personnel.
Yeah, he's not small. His best comparable on Player Profiler. Shout out to the guys on Player Profiler right now for a 3rd round pick. I bet you.
Sure.
DPJ is only 2 inches taller. So again, I'm not like DPJ was thought of to be, oh, this guy's going to be their new alpha outside opposite Amari Cooper now. Schwartz is 6 foot. Schwartz had a better college dominator rating for what it's worth. He had a better college target share for what it's worth. He's younger. He was a 3rd rounder, so he doesn't have bad draft capital. And if Curtis Samuel was playing with Deshaun Watson at some point in the near future, we'd all be in on him.
Mm-hmm.
And you would be willing to pay probably at least a 2nd round pick to get Curtis Samuel on your squad if he was playing with Deshaun Watson. And Schwartz is that it is comparable to Curtis Samuel. And people are all in on DPJ. Nobody's pounding the table trying to get Anthony Schwartz, and I think that's wrong. I think we should all be looking at Anthony Schwartz as somebody who can produce in the future.
It's two things with him. One, I didn't realize he was a former 3rd round pick. And 2, this is my favorite thing. I have to confirm this. I don't know if this is at 100% confirmed, but he holds the world record for under 18-year-olds in the 100-meter dash.
Dude's one of the fastest players in the NFL at 6 foot, 186 pounds.
That's awesome.
Yes, and he's playing with Deshaun Watson at some point in the near future. There's no way. This is what I want everybody in here doing right now. Going out and seeing what the Anthony Schwartz owner wants for Anthony Schwartz right now. Don't pause this video, keep listening. But go, like, pick up your phone.
Maybe pause it if it's laggy.
There you go.
Maybe,
there you go.
Maybe pause it if it's laggy. I'm trying to pay attention. I have it on the back of my mind because it's been a little jumpy here. But again, yeah, let us know how the stream is going, everybody. If you're just joining or if you've been joining, if it's laggy or jumpy, let us know.
It's a little bit better. It's not in the red right now for me. It's in the orange as far as the connection bar goes.
We're praying to the internet gods that
there we go.
That this stays, that it improves and stays that way. Alex, what's going on?
What's going on, Alex?
Love seeing when people are done work. You love to see it. Take the shoes off.
Love the
pour
emoji.
A drink.
Yep. Thanks for chilling with us.
But yeah, I mean, he ran a 10.15 in the 100-meter dash, which I would say, that's a little bit better indicator of straight line speed than the 40 because it's, I'm sorry, what's the yards to meters?
Let me just say this. I'm going to interject again. Anthony Schwartz is 6 foot, 186 pounds. You know who else is 6 foot, 186 pounds and ran somewhere close to 4.3s, 4.2s? Will Fuller. 6 foot, 186 pounds, ran a 4.32 and was a wide receiver
fast.
1 multiple, or at least one time, and a high-end wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside 2 other years with Deshaun Watson. If the Browns were smart, they would deploy Schwartz in the exact manner that the Texans deployed Will Fuller when Deshaun Watson was lighting the world on fire down there with him, and reap the benefits, because it's basically the same player outside of the draft capital invested, because Will Fuller was a 1st round pick, a late 1st. Anthony Schwartz is a late 3rd. But from a prospect perspective,
yep,
they are almost the same person. And I have not heard anybody talk about being in on Anthony Schwartz. So, that's my guy. I think everybody should be trying to trade for Anthony Schwartz right now.
What are you offering for Crumpler? That's asking. I'm offering something for him now.
I would just say, hey, I got
Start
2/3.
with a third.
I got 2/3, maybe not 1/3, because again, he is a Brown playing with Deshaun Watson at some point in the future. But if you give up 2/3 and third rounders again have a hit rate of 9.3%, so with those 2/3, you have a little bit less than a 20% chance of hitting on both of those thirds. I'd rather ship those 2/3 off and try to get Anthony Schwartz on my team. And I think that's enough. I think that'll get him.
There you go.
I think that'll get him. Because he did basically nothing last year.
No, but with a big time. But nobody in Cleveland did anything last year.
And Baker Mayfield wasn't connecting deep down the field. Like, that's not his strength.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean,
Anthony
to opposing
Schwartz,
opposing defensive backs, he did, but that's about it. Real quick, I mean, just I hate to keep coming back to this, but it does look like the stream is a little bit jumpy still. It looked like we had a decent number of people starting to trickle in, and now the number is shrinking again, and I do see it jumping in and out. We may have to shut this down a little early to reboot, so let us know if anybody's like, be completely honest. If it's like this isn't watchable, please let us know.
Yes, it's not going to hurt our feelings. It will help us if you let us know how.
Because I'm getting a lag. I don't know if I'm lagging for you, John, but you are for me a little bit, and it's just we're doing our best over here, but I understand it's distracting and not the best. Trade James Conner, the 106 this year,
and 2 2023 firsts for Jonathan Taylor, 208, and a second in 2023. It's tough right now because if you look at it, and we're going to go over the 2023 draft class a little bit later,
feel good
internet
about 'em.
willing.
Yeah.
But you with 2 2023 firsts, if they're projected to be higher 2023 firsts, you have a chance to get 2 high-end, very high-end running backs in next year's draft. And I know Jonathan Taylor is phenomenal.
He's awesome.
And there's no guarantee that either of the 2 running backs that you might have a chance to get in 2023 are going to be anything close to Jonathan Taylor. And I'm all for trading James Conner. But this is actually tough. It's actually tough.
I mean, it's James Conner and 3 first-round picks, basically, for Taylor and 2 seconds.
Right. It's tough. It's not a slam dunk. You look at it in like real quick, and you say James Conner and some picks for Jonathan Taylor. Sure. But when you take into account
picks are,
and stick around with us, P Diddy, we'll get into the 2023 class and why everybody shouldn't be sleeping on the 2023 class. See if the guy's at all amenable to James Conner 106 and 1 2023 first,
then
or just Jonathan Taylor and take the 208 and the 23 second out of it. Because again, we're talking about hit rates. Second round picks have a 30% hit rate. So if it was James Conner and 2 first round picks, 1 this year, 1 next year, for Jonathan Taylor straight up,
I mean, it's fair. I would say the offer is pretty fair because Taylor's coming off he's coming off the overall RB1 season and is still only 23 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. If you think you can contend, or if you're looking at your roster and you're like, yeah, I can contend this year, and adding Taylor just boosts that, I think I would do the deal. If I'm looking at my roster and I'm like anything other than a top 4 roster, then I probably say no. But if I've got a top 4 roster, then I add Jonathan Taylor, then I say I do the deal.
And we're going to disagree on this one. Sorry to give you conflicting information here, advice. I would be more inclined to say, hey, can you do James Conner 106 and what you project to be the later of those 2 2023 firsts for Jonathan Taylor straight up, and see if the owner goes for James Conner and 2 firsts instead of James Conner and 3 firsts for Jonathan Taylor. And, you know, the seconds are a nice throw in, but that 208 ain't moving the needle for me in 2022. It's just not, because I don't think you're going to be able to get a high caliber player, or are guaranteed a high caliber player with that 208. The 2023 second may be a little bit higher, but I would try first to give 2 firsts away and James Conner for Jonathan Taylor versus 3 for Jonathan Taylor and some picks that are dart throws. Because in a Superflex league, I gave up 3 firsts to get Josh Allen, who is the best, and I don't know your league format, you're going to have to let us know, who is the best asset in Dynasty Superflex. It's not Jonathan Taylor, and I gave up 3 firsts for him.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's 1 QB, then Jonathan Taylor is the best asset in 1 QB Dynasty leagues. But if it is Superflex, and 3 first-round picks are going to get you Josh Allen, every league's different, sure. I understand. If he doesn't go with that, maybe you add James Conner, 106, 1 2023 first, and a second this year, and see if that gets it done, and escalate from there. But 3 first-round picks, 2 being next year, in a running back heavy draft, gives me some pause. I know that might be market rate for a lot of people, but I would see if there's a little bit of wiggle room there. What's going on, Mike?
Yeah. What's up, Mike? I would look if there's wiggle room too, but ultimately I think I would pull the trigger on that if I feel like I'm contending this year. No, but yeah, if it's like, but otherwise, then no. So there you go.
Mike, should you buy Juju in a Superflex tight end premium dynasty league, and who could I give up? Yeah, you should.
Yeah. I mean, how old is Juju? He's still only like 25, 26 years.
25.
He's 25. I mean, you know, what do you specifically give up for him? It would probably take at this point some equivalent of a first-round pick. You know, not anything in the top 5 or 6, I would say.
Would you give up 112 straight up for Juju?
Yes. Yeah.
Or would,
because it's essentially a second-round pick.
Would you
basically
do that right now, or would you wait until the actual NFL draft when a rookie has gone to the Chiefs and maybe see if you can get him for a little bit more of a deflated price? Because right now, he is the de facto number 1 wide receiver there. And as soon as they draft one of these highly touted rookies, his value is going to tumble a little bit. It is.
Yeah, I mean, if it's Jameson, let's say it's Jameson Williams, I mean, you could then argue, well, he's not going to be ready to play this season, or at least the start of this season. And so the value doesn't necessarily come down that much.
Fair. Hey, if you can get it done for Amari Rodgers in the 23 second, do that all day.
Oh, yeah. Dude, take that and run.
Press that button yesterday, bro. Like, yes.
Take that and run. Was that offered?
Yes.
Oh, no. He's saying Amari Rodgers for a 2023 second. Oh, I thought you meant. Yeah.
Sorry, I read that wrong. My bad.
I would still do a 2023. I would still take a 2023 second for Amari Rodgers. I know the opportunity is there for him, but
I am not high on him.
Yeah.
So if somebody's willing to offer me a 2023 second for Amari Rodgers, I would do that. If I am buying Amari Rodgers, I wouldn't do it for anything more than a 3rd. And I wouldn't be expecting much.
Nah. The opportunity is there, but that's for now. Packers could still sign, say, a Jarvis Landry and draft a receiver. That's absolutely within the realm of possibilities for them. So, yeah, I would do that deal. But Juju, yeah, I mean, if you've got a late first round pick, I would say as high as the 109, where we are kind of in agreement where there's a bit of a tier break expected as from a talent perspective this year. I would do that. I just like a James Conner. Hell, we were just talking about James Conner, like capitalize off of his 18 touchdown season and flip him for a young wide receiver, something like that. I would even like spitball in here, like an Allen Robinson. Oh, look at the good landing spot, but he's a couple years older. Something like that. Maybe a second round pick this year and throw in like I don't know, in a tight end premium offer, like maybe not Albert O, but like a Noah Fant or a tight end who's maybe that second tier, but they're boosted a bit by tight end premium. Attach a second round pick to it and take Juju. I would be okay with all of these moves.
Juju, I mean, he outside of landing in a great spot, he hasn't been everybody's favorite wide receiver of late, even though within his first 2 years, in his first year he had 900 receiving yards, in his second year he had 1,400 receiving yards. I feel like the last 2 seasons that we've seen from him, one that wasn't very good and one where but in the one where he wasn't very good, he had Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges at quarterback. And then he got injured. Last year he got injured. So, yes, everybody is in love with the fact that he went to the Chiefs. But his ceiling, again, is 1,400 yards. And, I don't know the touchdown numbers. I'd have to look them up. I'm pretty sure he had, 9 touchdowns that year. He has a wide receiver one ceiling. Right. And people have forgot about that. So, if you can give up a late first or 2 seconds to get Juju Smith-Schuster on her team, who at age 23 or 22 was a 1,400-yard receiver with dead arm Ben Roethlisberger. You do that all day.
Yep. Yay Day? What's going on?
What's going on, Yay Day?
I think I'm saying that right. Top 2 of each of these rookies for redraft. So, I mean, I know this is kind of cliche answer, but landing spot's going to play a big role here. But for quarterback, I mean, it's Malik Willis, and then it's Malik Willis. I think it's fair to say he's going to go top 5 in the NFL draft, and therefore it's only a matter of
saying Malik Willis for redraft is that he is not a pro-ready quarterback, and he might take a year and play behind an unexciting veteran.
Maybe
he might be Trey Lance. If there's going to be a Trey Lance in this year's class, it's Malik Willis.
Yeah.
So redraft, okay. I have to say no. We're looking at which quarterbacks are coming in and are going to be pro ready. It's Pickett for one.
Who are going to start?
Right.
Yeah.
It's
whoever's
going to
start,
and then either Corral or Sam Howell.
Oh, God, no.
I mean, hey, for running back, it's a lot easier. For running back, it is a lot easier because it's Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker, straight up. No question. Doesn't
Hall
matter
and Walker.
The landing spot. For wide receiver,
nope.
It's tough. It's tough because wide receiver is also landing spot based. But I'd have to go Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. I'm not saying Treylon Burks here because redraft. Who are the safest bets at wide receiver? The safest bets at wide receiver. The safest bets, not the most high upside long term. The safest bets are Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. And that's without knowing landing spot. Landing spot will obviously shake things up and help a lot with the wide receivers. But for redraft, I'm looking for the safest bets. It's those two. It's those two for me.
Yeah, I agree on Wilson. I don't disagree on Olave, but I think I have to put Burks ahead of him.
For redraft too?
Sorry?
For redraft?
Yeah, because I think Burks is going to go within the top 20 picks of the draft. And when you splurt, and we've seen, I mean, recent history, players that get drafted with that high of draft capital get playing time and basically a starting role right away.
That also means they're not going to be on the best teams with the best quarterbacks.
But the teams that we're talking about here are, I mean, the Cowboys are being linked to every wide receiver right now. So whoever ends up there is probably, like, if it is Olave who's there, yeah, it would be him over Burks. But if it's Burks that goes there, then it's Burks over Olave.
Again, we're talking about landing spots again. So for wide
landing
receiver, we
crucial
can't really
here.
say. The only positions that we can really position that we can say for certain have a top two in redraft that is not changing depending on landing spot is running back, and that's Breece Hall and then Kenneth Walker. Yeah, everything else is kind of up in the air until the NFL draft.
We have to see. We have to wait and see.
We're going to be streaming the NFL draft every day of the NFL draft, day 1, day 2, and day 3. So come through on the NFL draft and ask that very same question, and we will have a definitive answer for you depending on where these rookies end up. But until
by
then,
day 2, yeah,
we can't say for certain for quarterback and wide receiver.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, right. If the Lions draft Malik Willis and then flip Jared Goff, who knows? But we have to see who ends up where, who's playing in front of who, what's the camp battle, what's the projected camp battle look like for the quarterbacks and the wide receivers. Yeah.
But thanks for joining us, man, and thank you for the question. Again, we hope that the technical difficulties aren't too bad. It doesn't look like I'm still in the
I haven't heard
right
from
now.
anybody, so hopefully it's not bad. But let us know. We were having we were having some laggy issues earlier.
Please let us know. Regardless of if it's good or bad, just throw something in the chat saying it's all good, it's been good, whatever.
Somebody threw us a dislike, so it must not have been good for somebody.
Well, can't please everybody. But let's get back into these dynasty
I know, but
discounts.
I think I would have to imagine it's got to deal with the connection issues.
Yeah.
So,
but let's get back into these dynasty discounts. Who you got next?
You offered up Schwartz earlier. Was that your most recent one, Schwartz?
Yes, we did. Rondale Moore and Schwartz.
Rondale Moore and Schwartz are some dynasty discounts to consider. So those are a couple of wide receivers. I am going to pivot to a running back. He's still relatively young. He's a veteran at this point, but not too old. Let me make sure I have that correct. But anyway, we were just talking about Jonathan Taylor in a trade discussion, but I want to bring up his backup as far as a dynasty discount.
All right.
And that's Nyheim Hines. And I was correct. He's still only 25, and he'll be 26 in November. But with these types of running backs, I worry about the age less because these are the types of guys who aren't getting those crazy workloads. These are ancillary satellite players, third down backs, change of pace players. Nyheim Hines is exactly that. Nyheim Hines is the Colts equivalent of like a J.D. McKissick or a James White. The Colts just got a quarterback upgrade in Matt Ryan. They don't have a first-round pick this year, and wasn't the third-round pick that they traded for Matt Ryan this year's third-round pick as well? I think it was.
So. Yes.
So the Colts don't have a ton of draft capital, and they've done very little in free agency as far as adding pieces on offense. Nyheim Hines has a chance, I think, to be – how many balls did he catch last year? Let me just check and make sure I have my numbers correct here. He caught 40 passes in 2021. I could see that going up to 60 to 65 in 2022. Better quarterback play, more scoring opportunities. And while I'm not predicting some earth-shattering regression for Jonathan Taylor, it's hard to duplicate the type of numbers that Taylor had. Can he do it? Yeah, if there's one guy in the league that can do it, it's a guy like Jonathan Taylor, who's still only 23 years old. But the Colts are going to be looking for pass catching help anywhere they can get it. And if they can't add, if they're not able to add premium talent at the wide receiver position for a second year in a row, they're going to need somebody else to step up. Hines has been on the team for several years now, knows the offense. It's a great offensive line. Fits that third down change of pace role perfectly. Marlon Mack is gone. Not that like totally hindered him last year, but it's a name off of the roster. And I just got done talking about Jonathan Taylor. If anything happens to Taylor, Hines is the handcuff, and he wouldn't take on any type of workhorse role in a potential Taylor absence, but he's going to see increased opportunities. And if the Colts are trailing, Hines is going to be on the field more often. I think that people are enamored with Jonathan Taylor, and for good reason. And I think as a result, a player like Nyheim Hines is flying under the radar a little bit. Shouldn't cost too much to get him if you could use some running back depth.
No, we like those backups plus.
Yeah.
The backups that offer standalone value, and Nyheim Hines is one of those guys. He offers standalone value as long as Jonathan Taylor's healthy, and as soon as Jonathan Taylor, let's hope this doesn't happen, but gets injured or gets a little nicked up, he takes on a completely different role, one that's a lot more involved in the offense, and it should be a great offense. And for what it's worth, I know they're completely different players, and they should be working with very different workloads, but Matt Ryan's change of pace back plus the backup running back plus last season was Cordell Patterson.
Mm-hmm.
It was. He ran the ball 8 times a game and then got 5 to 8 passes thrown his way. I do not expect that workload for Nyheim Hines out the gate, but we've seen Matt Ryan's change of pace back be a do-it-all and exceed expectations in recent memory. Not the same type of player at all, but Nyheim Hines is being a little bit disrespected. He is in the fantasy community. So, yeah.
That's,
I like it.
I mean, right. Hines is not going to be is not going to have a Patterson type of role, but I mean, it's the closest thing to it,
right,
on the Colts offense. So, yeah, I mean, averaged 5 yards a carry last year. He's, for his career, he averages almost 7 yards a catch, over 7 yards a catch, excuse me. Productive player. That's all I got to say.
I got a running back on my list who also
I might have just mentioned him.
Played for Indianapolis.
I might have just mentioned him. There he is.
Don't say it.
I'm not. I know exactly what you're saying. Don't say it, and I feel like it's over. It's over. It's out. It's dated at this point. It's not funny anymore.
Hey, people love to do it, especially on Sleeper.
Yeah, well, people are unoriginal with their jokes.
All right. Well, he's 26 years old.
That's fine.
And his main competition for work is a 32-year-old Rex Burkhead. Royce Freeman,
Rex.
who hasn't done anything in the NFL, anything
Royce.
significant.
Nah.
And Scotty Phillips, who literally hasn't done anything in the NFL. Not even significant. He just hasn't done anything in the NFL.
Yeah.
When we last saw Marlon Mack, he was a mid-tier running back 2 in 2018 and 2019. He was he operated as, in 2019, 12 points per game. In 2018, 14 points per game. Underrated running back, underrated signing. Yes, he's a couple years removed from the Achilles tear, and that usually spelt death knell for running backs. But we've seen in recent memory, running backs have been able to work themselves back, and him being more than 1 year removed from the Achilles tear is promising, is good. And he has little to no competition on this Texans team. Now, this Texans team is not going to be high flying by any means. Not going to be in the red zone a ton. but he's going to get work, and that's the most important thing for a running back. He should get the first and second most of, if not all of, the first and second down workload for this Texans team for at least one season. But if all you have to do is throw a third, which I think is all it's going to take to get Marlon Mack as somebody who's coming off the Achilles tear, who wasn't given the vote of confidence by the Colts. They let him go. And he went to a team that nobody likes. Nobody wants players on the Texans right now. You can probably throw a third and get a first and second down pseudo workhorse on your team, albeit from a bad team. But again, you've said it multiple times in live streams, not today, just in live streams in general. Doesn't matter if the team is good, as long as the running back's getting touches. We want running backs getting touches.
Players produce on bad teams too.
There we go. You said it better than I did. But Marlon Mack, I don't think we should be sleeping on Marlon Mack. I think Marlon Mack can have a little bit of a resurgence. And if all you got to pay is a third-round pick, which I'll say it again, 9.3% chance third-round picks end up being starters on your fantasy team. If all you got to give up is a third-round pick for somebody who should lead a backfield in touches in 2022, I'm doing that all day.
There you go.
Marlon Mack.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Mack. He was an explosive player prior to the injury, and then, and this is working in your favor in this situation. If you're trying to buy him, was basically a healthy scratch last year. Like he's 2 years removed from the Achilles injury, not one. Last year there was just no room for him because Jonathan Taylor was, just showed up and decided to be the best running back in the league. There was no room for Marlon Mack in Indianapolis. So, yeah, I mean, the fact that we haven't heard much from him in the past 2 years is working to your advantage if you try to acquire him. So,
Crumply Heads, you got a few questions before we move on to Nick's next Dynasty discount.
We can do that.
You have the 101 and the 109 with no room. Can you drop Moss? I would not drop Moss. I would drop Mike Boone. And De'Ami Brown over Zach Moss. I would not drop Mecole Hardman because I bet you there is somebody out there in your league who'd be willing to give you minimal draft capital, but draft capital nonetheless for him. If you dropped Mecole Hardman, somebody would pick him up the next day.
Yep.
Somebody would. So there's still value with Mecole Hardman. Even if you don't want him on your team, you might be able to sell him for a future third, a 2023 third, and then you can flip that into Marlon Mack winning. But I would drop Mike Boone and De'Ami Brown because Mike Boone has done nothing in the NFL, and now he's 26 years old. And chances are that Denver either re-signs Melvin Gordon or drafts a running back like Brian Robinson or somebody else later in the draft to pick up some of the slack in the running back room. So I would drop Mike Boone first.
Mike Boone's the drop.
And then De'Ami Brown. Try to trade Mecole Hardman into something. And keep Zach Moss. Hold on to Zach Moss. Rojo Fish, hey, no worries. Thank you very much for letting us know. Glad to hear that it's cleaned up for you. It is green on my board. The bars are all green for what from what I'm seeing. So it looks like we're back in business. I don't know what it was.
You haven't been jumpy for me, so that's good. Because I've been
maybe another transformer blew up on my block. Remember that one?
These damn squirrels are climbing into places where they shouldn't be and blowing out the electricity for everybody. But I do remember that. We were midstream and you were like, I think something's on fire down the street.
No, we just cut off and then you went live on your phone. And then
I was like, we'll be back up.
We had 3 live streams that day. That's
some hustle.
But let's hope that isn't the case today.
a one-off.
Rojo Fish, Ty Chandler or Kevin Harris? Who do we like? I like Kevin Harris.
Yeah.
I like Kevin Harris over Ty Chandler.
Why is
Ty
that?
Chandler seems like a 4th round pick type guy. Kevin Harris, he seems like
We like
discount
SEC players.
what we wanted from Isaiah Spiller. He's not what we wanted from Isaiah Spiller. He's discount what we wanted from Isaiah Spiller. I feel like you should be able to get Kevin Harris in the late 2nd, probably in the 3rd round somewhere, and I think he's going to go to a team and surprise them. He has kind of a do-it-all skill set. So does Ty Chandler, but I feel like Ty Chandler is more loved by the draft community. The draft community kind of chose Ty Chandler about 2-3 months ago as a guy that, hey, we're all going to fall in love with this guy. This guy's great.
Mm-hmm.
But then Kevin Harris, let me check his combine numbers. I'm pretty sure Kevin Harris had a very good combine. Put himself on the map.
He's got an elite burst score.
Right. Right. Kevin Harris, he's a riser for me. He's a riser for a lot of people. And I would rather have Kevin Harris with the 301, with the 212, than a Ty Chandler. And you could probably get both, because you can probably get Ty Chandler somewhere in the late 3rd, early 4th. Whereas Kevin Harris, for me, is somebody that has risen to the point where he probably is going to be about a round more expensive than a Ty Chandler. But if I had to choose one, Kevin Harris. Kevin Harris is not a guy that we've talked about too much on this channel.
No, not at all.
But I like Kevin Harris. He is a riser for me. I like Kevin Harris.
I guess the only thing with Harris, I wish I could, it would be nice if he had more of a target share. Now how much I'm not an expert on the Gamecocks offense, but how much they threw to running backs maybe is out of his control. But his target share is pretty low. His career high in catches is 21, and that was in 2020. Last year, or this past year, he only had
this class. I think we should also be looking for the James Robinson in this class, who was not an insane athlete, tested well at the combine, not an insane athlete, flew under the radar, and when put into the right situation, exceeded all expectations. And I think in this year's draft, that's Kevin Harris. It's not Ty Chandler. I like Ty Chandler. But Ty Chandler might not ever be given a full-time or given a shot in the NFL. There are running backs we like every year that are never given a shot. We're still waiting on Eno Benjamin. We're still waiting on Keyshawn Vaughn. And Ty Chandler, I don't expect to have the draft capital that those guys had. But that happens with running backs. It could happen with Kevin Harris. I just don't think it's going to happen with Kevin Harris. I think Kevin Harris is going to receive some draft capital, and he is going to outperform expectations. I like Kevin Harris.
There you go.
He's not quite Zamir White level for me. He's not getting into that territory. But in the 3rd tier for me, he is one of the better running backs in this year's draft that can be had in the 3rd tier.
I mean, all you need at this point with these types of players is just looking for one thing that they can do really well. And Harris has an elite trait to his credit with that burst score. So, yeah, can get on board with that.
The only player you should be thinking about reaching for at 203 is Jelani Woods.
It's Jelani Woods. How much are you being serious about that? We need to be careful with how much we're moving him up our boards.
Hey, man. I'm being a little overzealous there, but,
Sean's got the 103 and the 104. He's taking Garrett Wilson and Jelani Woods.
No, I'm taking Jelani Woods and then Garrett Wilson. Got it twisted.
And then Garrett Wilson.
Come on, bro.
Put some take the best. But he earned that 103.
Should we? Rojo Fish is talking about the 23 class. Should we interject our 23 class thoughts before moving on to more of these dynasty discounts?
I mean, if you have any, feel free. That's something I got to do a little bit more research on myself.
Well, the reason that everybody likes the 2023 class is because everybody knows it's going to be a deep class, but not a lot of people know the manners in which it's going to be deep. Everybody says, oh, the 2023 class is going to be great. It's not as good. It's way better than the 2022 class. We've heard that. But how so?
Right.
To me, the benefit of the 2023 class is the depth of high-end talent. You got what should amount to 3 first-round quarterbacks in Bryce Young from Alabama, C.J. Stroud from Ohio State, and D.J. Uiagalelei from Clemson. And that's not accounting for later-round quarterbacks who should be we've seen quarterbacks jump up in rankings. Nobody was expecting Malik Willis to be QB1 in this draft class until he had a great Senior Bowl and combine, and then boom, he's quarterback 1 in this class from the fantasy perspective. So everybody hates Spencer Rattler. He could have a great season. Now he's back in the first round conversation. Anthony Richardson, Florida Gators. Tyler Van Dyke, University of Miami. One of those guys, or somebody that I didn't even list, could have a great combine, great Senior Bowl, great year next year, and vault himself into first round territory. And the only quarterback that I see in 2022 with clear first round draft capital is Malik Willis. So already 2023, from a quarterback perspective, and this is important in Superflex, 2023 class much better for the quarterbacks than the 2022 class. Because honestly, for how highly touted or highly thought of Malik Willis is, it would go, if we were ranking the two classes together, it'd go Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, and then either Malik Willis or D.J. Uiagalelei. And it might be D.J. Uiagalelei. Malik Willis might be the 4th best quarterback prospect over the next 2 seasons. So that's something to take away there. Then we get to the running backs, the true strength of the 2023 draft class. There are only 2 bona fide first-round draft capital, without question, running backs in the 2022 draft class. Breece Hall, and to a lesser extent, Kenneth Walker. But in 2023, you got Bijan Robinson from Texas. You got Zach Evans from Ole Miss. You got Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama. You got Tank Bigsby. You got Sean Tucker. You got Zach Charbonnet, who was supposed to come out last year, coming out next year, or supposed to come out this year, coming out next year. And he was somebody who I thought at least was going to go in the late first this year.
He's UCLA.
Seth McGowan from Oklahoma. So you got 5 first-round running backs, and then 2 guys who could be thought of as late firsts, early seconds, who are at least in the conversation there. And again, that's not accounting for somebody we've never heard of vaulting ahead of half of the class, like what happened with Kenneth Walker this last year. Kenneth Walker was not on anybody's draft boards last year, anywhere close to the first round, and even the second round. And then he ran crazy in his last year of college. I think he had something like 1,400 yards in college, something like that, in his last year. He had a
phenomenal year this past year, yeah.
And now he's RB2. So that could, again, we talked about that happening with the quarterbacks. That could happen with these running backs. But even in a vacuum, the 2022 draft class runs 7 deep at elite players, or projected elite players. The 2023 class, just talking about the quarterbacks and the running backs, already runs 8 deep. And that's not accounting for anybody that's going to be jumping over and these other guys that we haven't even mentioned. And then you get down to the wide receivers. And you got Kayshon Boutte from LSU.
Yeah.
You got the best Ohio State wide receiver out of anybody that's been going to be drafted in the next 2 years in Jackson Smith-Njiba.
Yeah.
He's better than Jamison Williams. He's better than Chris Olave. or at least he was last year. He was the best wide receiver for Ohio State. So I already put him and Kayshon Boutte over a lot of the people in this draft class that people are going crazy over. And then you got Jordan Addison from Pittsburgh, who played with Kenny Pickett, had a 1,500-yard season. I don't know where he ranks in terms of the 2022 draft class, but that's something that's eye-opening. 1,500-yard season. And then you got Raheem Jarrett from Maryland, Jermaine Burton, who transferred to Alabama to play with Bryce Young this year, so he's going to explode on everybody's radar, where he doesn't quite have the resume that people expect, but he's going to by the end of this next season. Excuse me. So, even right now, that's 13 prospects deep in first-round talent.
Mm-hmm. Without accounting for who could potentially be a riser.
And that's not even talking about Michael Mayer from Notre Dame, who is in the conversation for being a first-round tight end next year. So we're potentially talking about double the amount of first-round caliber prospects in 2023 than are projected to be in 2022, because as we've stated before, there's a teardrop after 107 in Superflex leagues. There's a teardrop after 106 in 1QB leagues in the 2022 class. The 2023 class, so much deeper. And for Superflex leagues, you got 3 first-round quarterbacks and 5 first-round running backs. It's I can see why everybody is trying to go out and trade for 2023 draft picks, but that digging into why illuminated that for me, and now I'm thinking, hey, if I have anything after the 107, I'm trying to trade that for a 2023 pick. I am. So those are my thoughts on the 2023 draft class. Nick, do you have anything to say?
You pretty much covered it. I mean, at this point, we're also so far off on top of all of that. We're so far off from, who comes out of nowhere and who unexpectedly bottoms out.
Right.
It's just, it's always fun to look ahead and look at the prospects that are on the long-term roadmap, but also you could just as easily end up having to redo every little bit of research you do 6 months from now, 9 months from now, after the college football season is well underway.
And even keeping in mind cautionary tales like Justin Ross, who everybody thought was going to be in talks to be the first wide receiver off the board in 2022 drafts, and he has fallen to the point where now he is basically undraftable because he ran a 4.8 at the 40 in the combine. You got guys like Spencer Rattler, who was supposed to be the 101
bottomed out
in Superflex leagues, and now we're looking at him like we're looking at Desmond Ridder. So
yeah, I mean, even Isaiah Spiller. I mean, we're already talking about him like he's undraftable. I mean, and he's still, I think, consensus, for whatever this is worth, a top 3 option at the running back position this year.
Depending on who you're talking to, a lot of people think we mentioned Royce Freeman.
He's faded hard.
we mentioned Royce Freeman.
I mean,
he might be a guy like that.
I think people will, but people will. Somebody will look at the name in itself and be like, this guy's falling to the bottom of the first round. Sure, I'll take a shot on him. That's going to happen.
And we would not advocate that.
And see, so there you go. Like, all of your homework that you may have done at like this time last year on Isaiah Spiller appears to be completely out the window.
But it is important to at least know the names
of course,
these
yeah,
players that you're
of course.
attaching value to based on based on just hearing you should be buying 2023 picks over 2022 picks. It's at least good to know the names and have an idea of who you're tying these picks to, instead of just blindly believing what somebody said, a vague statement that a bunch of people are saying about the distinction between the two classes. So yes, I understand that there's going to be some fallers, there's going to be some risers, there's going to be some fallers in the 2023 class. And the rankings and the people that I mentioned, some of them won't be first round draft capital caliber players come the 2023 draft class. But I do believe that there is more value to be had in the 2023 class than the 2022 class, at least once you get past 107, 106, 107, depending on the league format. So that about does it for my thoughts on the 2023 class.
It's like a way too early preview of 2023. I think that pretty much sums it up nicely.
What's going on, AB?
What's up, AB?
What's happening, bro?
You're good. Honestly, today was a good day to be late. We were having technical issues at the top of the stream, and hopefully not anymore, but might still be.
We're still in the green as far as I can see, and you haven't been
I think
glitching
we're
out
good.
On screen up here, so I think you're okay. I think we're okay.
I think we're good.
Thanks for sticking with us, everybody who stuck with us through the technical difficulties. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. Thanks for hanging on.
But Rojo, I hope that helps. That's our overview right now, as it stands right now, of the 2023 class. We'll do this a couple more times this year, and obviously we'll be ramping up 2023 draft coverage as we move towards the 2023 year. So we'll be keeping an eye on it. Thank you very much for the super chat, Alex.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate that.
Much appreciated.
Not necessary, but always very much appreciated.
But let's get back to some of these Dynasty discounts. Let's get back to the Dynasty discounts, y'all.
Yeah, we can do that.
Who you got next?
You just went Marlon Mack. I'll go back to a running back. I feel like you might disagree with this one.
Okay.
My next two are going to be older guys. These guys are, general consensus relative to their position. They're aging at this point, but I think the general consensus on them is low right now due to advanced age. Right, these guys are in their 20s. And injury. They're coming off. These guys. My next two dudes are coming off injury-riddled seasons. Maybe that's not the right word, but injuries in general. My running back is, or my next running back is Kareem Hunt.
Okay.
This is only for people who feel like they are in contention. If you're looking at your roster and it's like I'm bottom 6 or maybe worse. My mic almost went flying.
Technical difficulties. What's going on, Iron?
Yeah, you're not kidding. What's going on, Iron? Kareem Hunt should not be on your radar. If you're bottom 6 or you're just like, I don't look like a playoff team this year or even next year, then no. But if you could use some running back depth and you feel like you're a playoff contender or better, Kareem Hunt, I think, is a great, as far as maybe more of a name, target. All of these guys fit in the same bucket as far as we think that they shouldn't cost too much. Relative to his name recognition, I don't think Kareem Hunt should cost more than like a middling second-round pick this year.
I'd put it at.
Yeah, like the 205-ish is what I think you can get for Kareem Hunt. Still only 26 years old. He'll be 27 when the season starts. But, I mean, you want to talk about a player who hasn't had a full workload since his second season in the NFL, is a candidate to get traded with the Browns' running back depth. Plus, I wouldn't be surprised if that front office was currently looking for ways to recuperate some draft capital that they just gave away in the Deshaun Watson trade. Coming off an injury, always a little concerning, but nothing like long-term to have a concern about. and is kind of, is that standalone third down player right now for the Browns. But again, like John, you mentioned earlier, we're looking for like who are those third down players with standalone value. I mean, Kareem Hunt is still, I would say, a top 5 player in that category when healthy. And even if he doesn't get traded, now he's on the best offense since when he was playing on the Chiefs in Mahomes' rookie year. Shouldn't break the bank. Has been a very productive player, has had a nose for the end zone over the course of his career. Last year was a little down. Again, the Browns offense as a whole went in the tank last year because Baker Mayfield had a terrible season and the offense in general just kind of bottomed out. Plus, he missed time at the end of the season due to injury. I think this is a prime opportunity, again, if you're a contender, to look to pry a guy away like Kareem Hunt, because it's not going to cost you a first-round pick, and you can absolutely say no to any high second-round pick. But anything like the 205, 206, or later should be enough to get a deal done for a guy who's going to be 27 years old. But again, not as worried about that advanced age because he doesn't accumulate 300 touches in a season. He hasn't basically since his rookie year. This is his second year he did as well. But since then, the workload has been, there's no workload concerns as far as like wear and tear despite his somewhat advanced age. So very specific, not for players who are rebuilding. But if you're looking at your team and like, yeah, I got a shot, I think he's good running back depth for dirt cheap. And a player you can flip for more capital if he gets back to the Kareem Hunt that we're used to seeing on the field.
And for what it's worth, I mean, he was a pass-catching running back or operated as such. It's not his skill set is larger than that or better than that, but he was kind of pigeonholed into the pass-catching running back for the Cleveland Browns. His main competition in that part of the field is gone. That was Jarvis Landry and Austin Hooper. Now, David Njoku is going to take a lot of that work from Austin Hooper, but they did not get a replacement for Jarvis Landry, and I don't believe the rumors that Jarvis Landry is open to going back to the Browns. I don't believe it.
Okay.
I'll believe it when I see it. So I like the Kareem Hunt suggestion a lot, man. Again, if you're a contender, yes, and Rojo Fish alluded to he thinks that he's going to be in a different uniform soon. And
Wouldn't
you said that
me.
too. You said that too, so yeah, you guys both agree on that.
Shock me.
Wouldn't shock me either. But you look at Kareem Hunt, yes, he's 27. But he also, not only did he not have a full workload throughout the majority of his career, he also missed a season.
Yeah.
Due to the suspension. And if you look at a guy like Melvin Gordon, who was just a middle to high-end RB2 last year playing with Javonte in a split role, despite the fact that he was 27, 28 years old.
Yeah.
Kareem Hunt, same kind of player, a year younger.
Yep.
Yeah. I was shopping Melvin Gordon last year for a third-round pick because I just wanted to get the old running back off my team. And if there are players like this in your dynasty league who don't yet know the value of the steady vets who will just produce, especially at a position like running back, where as soon as somebody reaches the age of 27, 28, they're devalued an incredible amount. But there's value to be had there, just like a Melvin Gordon last year. And I was wrong last year. I was wrong. Learning
I was too.
Experience.
So I should have taken that deal. I should have taken Melvin Gordon for a third. Yep.
Kareem Hunt is going to be in the same boat.
Yep.
To your point, not the biggest workloads throughout his career. I like that. I like that suggestion a lot. If you can move
there you go.
The 206, 207, something later for Kareem Hunt, I would do that all day if you're a contender.
Yep.
I like that.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I would come up as high. Like if you've got the 201 or the 202, you somehow traded your way into a high second round pick, but you're also a contender. Maybe you hang on to the 201 or the 202, but I would even come up a little bit from the 205 if it was like, yeah, I could use, I like my roster, but I could use some running back depth.
Yo, Iron. Yo, that. Yeah, DK with the candy. That is crazy. That is crazy.
There you go.
I don't know whether I should be scared or not as a DK owner, because I believe that because he does not take nutrition and all that stuff very seriously, he might hit a wall sooner than we think.
Yeah.
But then you look at some of these Hall of Fame caliber wide receivers that he has been compared to athletically, like a Chad Johnson who ate nothing but McDonald's all day, every day,
Yeah.
and Marvin Harrison who had fast food as his meal every day. And I don't know whether or not I should be.
I mean, Marshawn Lynch is known for just, I mean, not maybe exclusively, but he loves Skittles.
And for those that have missed out, DK eats candy every day. He works out twice, and then he eats candy. Two bags of candy. I'm not sure how big the candy bags are, but 2 bags of candy. He said specifically gummy bears were his thing, gummy savers, and then eats dinner and calls it a day. So he does the whole 1 meal a day thing, but he also does 2 bags of candy a day. So,
getting those 10,000 calories all in one sitting. Some of them are empty, but I mean, yeah, it's a double-edged sword there, because on one hand you're like, yeah, you wish everybody had the Tom Brady diet where they were vegan and just and they were taking every extreme measure to put the best possible nutrition into their body. But on the other hand, these athletes...
Tom Brady wasn't doing that when he was 23, 24.
No, he wasn't.
That's how old DK is. It took a long time for him to get there.
These guys are in their 20s and are and have a level of physical fitness that most of us, maybe not Olympic weightlifting, holy hell, man.
Respect.
Yeah, for real. I can't even comprehend that, but that's kind of what I was getting to. They are in a level of shape. And maybe some of this is genes as well, and just
it's absolutely has to do with genes too,
and incredible physical attributes. Some people just hit the physical jackpot. Not to diminish the work that they put in, but also they have the means to put in that work, and it's sustainable for them. They're on a level that we can't even comprehend. Sure. So when they eat all of that sugar and then go work out, like they're in their 20s, like DK's 24 years old, they're burning that shit off right away. Like, that it doesn't hit them the way it hits when you're in your 30s and 40s and not in prime athletic shape.
I don't know if we should be giving him the benefit of the doubt, but he did not specify whether or not that was an off-season thing or an in-season thing. So that could just be, hey, I'm taking a break from doing all the things that I need to because it's the off-season. So, yeah, I'm having 2 bags of candy a day.
The rigors of the season.
What are you going to do about it, right? So,
I want to see DK score a touchdown, go to the bench, and just, throw the bag of gummy bears back. Just, that's his celebration.
We might. He's in Seattle.
The fans in Seattle used to throw Skittles at Marshawn after he scored, and he would try to catch him in his mouth. Should do the same thing with DK with the gummy bears. But yeah. So there you go.
And Crumply Heads has a question about Hines. What were you suggesting?
Offering for Hines? I mean, a couple of 3rd-round picks. I would say, that's something along those lines. Maybe a late second. Nothing more. I would start, maybe the 208, 207 would maybe be the limit, and just, the argument that the negotiation talking point there is like, yeah, I'm interested, but he's still just a satellite back. He's a 3rd-round pick, or a 3rd down back. I could use some depth at the position. But I'm not willing to go way overboard for a guy who is very clearly not the number 1 option in the backfield. Or the number 1 option in any way, shape, or form in the passing game.
And likely never will be.
No, I mean, he's a scat back. I love Nyheim Hines, don't get me wrong, but these are the talking points that you can use to drive the asking price down. So, maybe start with a couple of 3rd-round picks if they say I need the 210 or the 209. Ultimately, it's like, yeah, okay, deal. Done. But I like the idea of a Nyheim Hines as running back depth. I think he can be as I think he could be like a high upside RB4, depending on who the backs you have ahead of him are. But I think you can be a solid RB4 with plenty of upside to be, an RB3 in a pinch, in bye weeks, in plus matchups, games where we're looking at it where we think, yeah, the Colts might be trailing that game or losing that game. So yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah.
I think he can be some sneaky depth, or a great investment if you have Taylor.
I would shoot hard for getting him for a couple of thirds. I don't know how far I'd be willing to go into the second round. Even a mid 208 would be where I would stop. If somebody wants the 207, you got to give me something back.
Throw a 4th round pick back, and you got a deal.
Something like that.
There you
and
go.
Aaron, where do you rank Christian Watson, and would you trade Mitchell
I'll let you
for
take
the 107?
this one.
Well, first, Mitchell for the 107. Being the 107 owner, would you do that?
Well, I traded Mitchell. So I traded Elijah Mitchell this offseason. I got Elijah Moore and a 2023 second round pick for him. So I feel pretty good about that. So, if I equivalent that package to
more.
like the 107,
I think you can get more than the 107. I think you can get the 107 in a second if you ask for it.
I feel like somebody might start thinking you're getting greedy there, but
you never know if you never ask.
No, right. I know.
Yes, at the end of the day, I'd be willing to trade
at the end of the day,
for the 107. But
I would.
I would ask for more first. Elijah Moore nailed it. And Christian Watson.
Hey, I'm happy with getting Elijah Moore. I don't feel bad about that one bit.
If you're going off pure athletic upside, Christian Watson has rare pure athletic upside.
Yep.
I think he can be. Where do I rank him? It's tough. Because there's in the tier of wide receivers where he is ranked, or just where he lives right now. It's really landing spot based. It really is. If he goes to the Lions or something, I'm not super high on Christian Watson until they get a big-armed quarterback to go along with that. Now, if he finds his way onto the Packers and is their field stretcher, is their new MVS, I like that a lot more.
Different tune.
Christian Watson, I hate giving this answer, but you kind of have to at this point in the game. It's really landing spot dependent. But in terms of for me, he's at the end of the second tier, beginning of the third tier for draft prospects as it stands right now for the 2022 draft class. I'd rather have Sky Moore, Jahan Dotson, George Pickens, but at the end of that tier, I have Christian Watson. At the beginning of the next tier, I have Christian Watson. So somewhere in the second round, I think Christian Watson goes somewhere in the second round.
There you go.
But there you go. And Rojo Fish, yeah, man. Let's cry about it together. And AB, you still got Devontae Freeman. I think you can cut him. I do. A report just came out today about maybe the Ravens would be drafting another running back if running back they like falls.
Gotta be smoke.
That's gotta be smoke, but where there's smoke, man.
Yeah.
Where there's smoke, there's more smoke.
Is that bad? Is that an indictment on maybe either Dobbins
I'm not taking
or
it that
Edwards?
far. I'm not taking it that far. But that means to me, I'm out on Devonta Freeman, who I was out on before last season and had a little bit of resurgence. Good for Devonta Freeman. But they were also devoid of talent at the position, and I don't expect that to happen again this year, especially now that the league's pandemic-related rules have changed. We're not going to have so many, this guy's inactive last minute because he had close contact with this other player, and now we're stuck with the fourth or fifth string running back for
Right.
week 8 or something. That's not going to happen, and I'm not projecting injuries again for Dobbins and Edwards. I'm just not expecting that. So
No.
Devonta Freeman, yeah, I think he's a drop. What's he now, 31? How old is Devonta Freeman? He's 30 years old.
He's up there.
He's 30 years old. And
he's 30. Yeah, he's 30. And he just turned 30. He's not going to turn 31.
We were all out on Devonta Freeman before last year when he showed a little something. But
right.
I'm back to being out on him.
And that's fair. Here's my one plug for Devonta Freeman. And I was not, I wasn't high on anything he could potentially do last year. We were, he ended up proving us wrong. Good for Devonta. He did have a bit of a late career renaissance last year. He was in a bad situation the year prior with the Giants, who were awful, right? I think they signed him when they lost Saquon Barkley for the season.
Yes.
They were looking for literally anything. Freeman had been cut by the Falcons, latched on with a horrible Giants team. I mean, they were so bad. So now looking back, I don't hold that against him quite as much. I think he was just in a no-win situation. Last year, signs his depth after the injuries, has a nice season, in a much better situation in Baltimore. To that point, I think that last year proved, if anything, maybe he's not necessarily quite done. Is he done in Baltimore? Yeah, probably. But is he done in the NFL? We know the injury rate of running backs is high, and it just is. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when and who gets hurt. So with that said, unless you are scrambling for roster spots ahead of your rookie draft, I would wait. Because if he lands somewhere and you can flip him for a 4th round pick to someone who suddenly is RB deficient before the season, I would rather take my chance, because you could. Dropping him today or dropping him in August is the same transaction for you. Whereas dropping him today, all of a sudden it's late August, he gets signed, and all of a sudden he's in a situation where he could, maybe not to the same extent that he does last year, but somehow looks like he could contribute in 2022. Now it's like, hey, to whoever the guy is that just lost 2 guys for 6 weeks to injury, what's up with that 4th round pick for Devonta Freeman?
I disagree with you respectfully. While
right.
we are advocating not being completely out on a running back when he's age 27, when he's age 28, once a running back hits age 30, that really is the cliff for a running back. And Devonta Freeman is now 30 years old.
Yeah.
And yes, he was productive last year, but it was really out of extreme necessity.
Yeah.
And from weeks 8 to weeks 13, yes, he was getting 13 rushes, 13 attempts, 10 attempts, 16 attempts, 16 attempts, 14 attempts, 13 attempts. And in that span, he had a game with 8 targets, 5 targets, 6 targets, 4 targets. I don't see any team giving him anywhere close to that role this year or moving forward. It's just, I do not believe it's going to happen. And I don't see any smart fantasy owner giving up even a 4th round pick for a 30-year-old running back who was over the hill and overachieved based on not just 2 running backs ahead of him getting injured, 4 running backs ahead of him getting injured. Because it wasn't just Justice Hill tore his Achilles too, didn't he?
Yeah, Justice
and
Hill.
And then halfway through the year, Latavius Murray got injured. And that's why Devonta Freeman started to see more work after week 8. And then Latavius Murray came back. And then if you look in his game totals after weeks 14, 15, 16, and 17, his rushing totals came way down again, and he was getting 6 attempts a week and getting maybe 2 targets a week. So, and even with when he was getting double-digit rushes, he wasn't lighting the world on fire. and now he is 30. He's hit that cliff. I don't see it for him specifically. It's not like he's been consistent and good like a Mark Ingram was up until age 30. His value's gone like this, and then he was basically thought of to be out of the league until the Ravens picked him up from the trash heap and gave him a significant workload when 4 running backs on their team got injured ahead of him. And I just don't see that happening again. I just don't. So I think you can cut Devonta Freeman because you know what? If he does go to a team that ends up that you think is going to give him work in August, then you can probably pick him up again. Probably not gonna have. You're probably not gonna like. Yes, I get your point.
I don't know.
I get your point, and I don't want to talk too much longer about Devonta Freeman because I don't think it matters all that much. Sorry, AB.
He's got an overall RB1 to his credit. Put some respect on his name,
dude. When he was 23, sure.
I know it was a long time ago. Bro, I know it was a long time ago.
You got rose-colored glasses because Devonta. You were the Devonta Freeman owner when that happened, and I get it. We all get attached to players. You won the. There you go. You won the championship when you had Devonta Freeman on your team. You got rose-colored glasses. I'll give you that. Good job for winning seeing Devonta Freeman and whatever. You know what I mean? I just in 2022.
All I'll say is I would not. I understand. I would not drop him yet. That's all I'll say. I would not drop him yet.
He's an outright drop this offseason. Maybe
he's also got AB's also got Mixon, ETN, and the 102. So, I mean, the depending on who the rest of your depth is, you didn't name anybody else, AB. Maybe the depth's not. I mean, maybe you feel like the depth's not quite worth mentioning. I would hold. For now,
you gotta have better depth than Devonta Freeman.
Well, we'll see. So there you go.
Offered Hines and a 2023 second for Chris Carson.
Or Wentz. What Carson are we talking about here?
Carson?
And I assume it's a super flex league. In which case, I wouldn't hate that move.
If it's Carson Wentz?
Yeah, I mean, just if it's a super flex league, if it's Chris Carson, please don't trade for Chris Carson. I mean,
he almost made my list, by the way.
I'm not trying to be, I'm not like, it's just me personally, neck injuries put you off my board. Neck injuries put you off my board. I don't like, and I hope, guess what? I hope he proves me wrong. I hope Chris Carson tells me to shove it and proves me wrong. I would love that for him. I would love that for
what about operating
anybody.
under the impression that it's Wentz that he's talking about? Continue on.
If it's Wentz, if it's Wentz and it's a super flex league and you could use some quarterback depth, yeah. Or hell, I mean, he could even be, depending on the situation, he could be a quarterback too in super flex leagues. I would just say, as far as some of the names go at the quarterback position, I feel like Carson Wentz is right at the top as far as like being the Devonta Freeman of quarterbacks, being close to being out of the league. This is his last chance in Washington. And there aren't too many, and I'm about to go on a slight tangent here. Carson Wentz has now been offloaded by 2 teams, and the narrative has been the same in both scenarios. It ultimately came to a head that he's not a good leader, he's not a good locker room presence, and he's not the type of player you want as your quarterback from a perspective of an NFL franchise as far as moving forward and trying to compete and win games in this league. The Eagles determined that, and the Colts determined that. And if you look at the language, especially what has been coming out recently out of Indianapolis about how he wasn't a good teammate, he's he's not a coachable player, and he's difficult to work with from the perspective of coaches, and his teammates don't like him. This is not all like paraphrasing. These are articles from The Athletic and other beat reporters who cover the team. These are the comments that are coming out about Carson Wentz. Now he goes to arguably the most dysfunctional organization in the NFL.
Not even close. Not arguable.
And
the most dysfunctional organization.
Yeah, I would honestly say, yeah, maybe it's not even. I mean, maybe Jacksonville's up there, but like,
no,
that's the company that Washington is currently.
Jacksonville
keeping.
had one bad year. Washington had one bad decade.
Yeah, well, they hired Urban Meyer. I don't give him that much credit.
It's one bad year.
Well,
one bad decision, one bad year. Washington has been
bad decision. I agree.
Come on, bro.
They are in a class all by themselves,
yes.
Not to mention all the things that they deal with off the field and have dealt with off the field for
I'm
years.
Including that.
Yeah, right. Not it. Yeah. One of the most, and I can only go off of the reports that have taken place over the past 2 years, what appears to be one of the most unlikable players in the NFL now goes to the most dysfunctional organization in the NFL, who is in no way, shape, or form ready to compete with their current roster. So I just caution with a player like Carson Wentz. Yes, on the surface, from a fantasy perspective, and at the end of the day, this is what we care about. But I think that the context of what I'm talking about matters here from a fantasy perspective as well. Yeah, he tossed 27 touchdowns last year and only 7 interceptions. That's good. On the score sheet, that'll get it done in Superflex leagues as your QB2. That'll get it done. But the intangibles surrounding Carson Wentz lead me to believe that he is on as thin of ice as any quarterback in this league, as far as somebody who is entrenched as the starter. So I would just, if you're trying to win now, Carson Wentz provides some solid depth for you this year. But if you play Dynasty and you hitch your wagon to Carson Wentz, I just caution you could be hitching your wagon to a player who could be going the way of the backup quarterback sooner than later, and I'm not sure how that fragile ego is going to respond to that type of situation.
I'd rather have Baker Mayfield. If I'm offering a Hines in a 2023 second, I'd rather have Baker Mayfield. So I'd try to do something like that.
Honestly, I think I would too.
If I have
Baker
Hines
Mayfield
in a
might not even have a
2023
job
second,
this year.
if I have Hines in the 2023 second, I'm trying to get Davis Mills, not Carson Wentz. I agree with what you said 100%. I would rather not have somebody whose situation is as fragile as Carson Wentz on my team. I believe there are starters who are better equipped that you can get for about the same amount of cost. So Hines in a 2023 second, you might be able to get Davis Mills for that. Would rather have Mills. Iron. If Jameson Williams lands in KC, he would be your wide receiver 1 for the draft. No.
He would be an easy top 4, top 5, but I can't quite put him at 1.
Remember what happened with what we did with CEH with this very exact team. We got hype on landing spot. Do not change your rankings with the high-end players too much for landing spot. Don't jump the wide receiver 7 up to wide receiver 1. Not saying that Jameson Williams is the wide receiver 7 in this class, but I'm just saying that's what we did with CEH. He was everybody's RB6 in that class, and then all of a sudden he went to KC and people were drafting him with the 101, and we saw how that happened. You would, at this point, hindsight being 2020, I'd rather have pretty much all 5 of the running backs that he jumped from that draft class. Pretty much. Antonio Gibson, Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins. He jumped all those guys. I would rather have DeAndre Swift. There you go. I knew I was missing one. He jumped all those guys up to 101 because everybody was hype on the KC landing spot, and they forgot that he was the 6th most talented running back in that draft class. I'm not saying that's the same exact situation with Jameson Williams, because Jameson Williams is talented.
Oh, yeah.
But expecting Jameson Williams to go to KC and turn right into Tyreek Hill, wrong move. There's only one Tyreek Hill in the NFL currently. So expecting a draft pick, a wide receiver who we like a lot, to come in and be that guy straight off the bat, and so you're drafting a wide receiver 1 in the draft is not smart. It's not a smart move. So I would, if Jameson Williams goes to KC and Drake London goes to the Jets, would I rather have Jameson Williams then over Drake London? Yes. At that point, yes. But that's only jumping one wide receiver. That's not jumping 5 wide receivers. So you got to be careful. You got to keep your excitement in check when you're learning about these landing spots. Just have some caution there.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the question.
Yeah. No, I agree. I like him long term, but we also have to remember it's just, he's probably not. He's a candidate. He's my candidate to be this year's Rashad Bateman from the perspective of he just might not be able to contribute all that much from this year because he's going to be spending a good chunk of his offseason rehabbing from that torn ACL, which is going to put him behind the 8 ball in training camp. That's valuable time that he is likely going to miss as a rookie. So just want to throw that out there as well. We're going to be waiting probably until year 2 on Jameson, and that's and we it's Dynasty. We're playing the long game ultimately. But just want to throw that out there as well.
And AB, with a running back group like that, yes, I would go Kenneth Walker over Burks at 102. And okay, fine, hold on to Devonta Freeman at least until at least for another few months until you absolutely have to drop him once your the roster cut comes into effect, when you need to get down to 30 players, 25 players, whatever it is with your league. Hold on to him, sure, because Darrington Evans was cut, got injured in 2 straight years, and then was cut by the Titans, the team that drafted him. I don't know if he's going to get picked up by another team. We like Kylan Hill. Didn't do anything this last year. Might not do anything until 2023.
Yeah,
and Joshua Jackson, we both think that the Chargers are going to invest in running back again because they haven't hit on Joshua Jackson, they haven't hit on Joshua Kelly, and they haven't hit on Larry Roundtree, but they've tried. Which means, and a report just came out, I think last weekend, that Eckler wants the team to draft a running back to manage his reps so he can stay healthy for the entire season.
So smart, yeah. I'm sure Eckler, not that I'm in Eckler's camp, but he's probably of the mindset, like, let me keep catching passes. And you draft somebody else to slam up the middle.
So if you're going into next season with Mixon, ETN, Kenneth Walker, and then Boston Scott, Joshua Kelly, Darrington Evans, Kylan Hill,
I feel fine about that.
Hold on to Devonta Freeman until you absolutely have to drop him. But I still think he's a drop. But then, Darrington Evans is a drop for me, too.
I would say right now Evans is Evans is a drop over Freeman right now if you need the roster space. And he's a guy you could pick back up if you wanted to.
I think both of them are guys that you can pick back up after you drop them. But you don't drop them until you absolutely need to. I agree with Nick's assessment there and his advice.
Recency bias is going to make Freeman a more appealing name if you drop him. Recency bias.
If Nick's in your league.
No, anybody. Recency bias.
I'm playing with you, bro. I'm playing.
Yeah.
Word. Iron A, you're welcome, bro. I don't want you to look back in 3 years. Not that I think Jameson Williams is going to be a bad player if he goes to KC, but I don't want you to look back in 3 years and think, oh man, I wish I wouldn't have vaulted him up so much based on landing spots. So we got to CEH was a learning experience for us all. And Theo's question, do you think DJ is going to get moved this year? What's going on, Theo?
My gut says no.
Because who else do they have to build around?
They have, the answer is nothing.
Chris Carson, bro.
Yeah. Seattle has no other building blocks. Ford on the defensive line, like, is maybe the other guy. That's it. Not Jamal Adams. Like, they don't have anybody else. They need, like, every NFL team, for better or worse, they still need to put butts in the seats and someone to sell jerseys. Like, they need something, remotely anything. DK is quite literally, no disrespect to some of the veterans on that team. I love Tyler Lockett, but DK Metcalf is quite literally the only potential long-term sell Seattle currently has.
No, Fant. I throw him in there too. But I agree with your point for the most
I
part.
like Fant more than I think the average fantasy drafter. But yeah, I mean, to this point in his career, Fant is not in that same level of.
I'd agree with you.
Not in that conversation. That being said, draft Noah Fant and redraft this year, going like 135.
Yes,
it's easy. Well, best ball anyway. I don't think DK gets traded. I don't think teams will offer what Seattle wants, and I don't think Seattle will break on a higher asking price than teams are willing to go. I think that's what it is, because like DK is probably only going to, or I say probably, teams do dumb stuff all the time. I would be surprised if DK is able to net Seattle more than, say, like a first round pick and maybe like a fourth or something. Best case scenario. Seattle fans would riot. That wouldn't be enough for Seattle in return. But also, I don't think Seattle would settle for that. I think DK is a special situation here where it's going to be incredibly hard for both sides to come to some type of an agreement.
And it's not a window play for Seattle where DK is going to age out by the time that their window comes into play. I mean, he's 23, going to be 24 years old. We're not talking about a window of winning or losing or a rebuild window with DK Metcalf, because even if it takes him 3 years to rebuild, he will be 27, right in that wide receiver age apex, ready to compete by then. So, yeah, I just don't see it either. I don't see it either.
Nah.
It really doesn't make sense. They wouldn't, to your point, they wouldn't get the return even if they traded for a quarterback to bring a quarterback in. It would just be a spinning your wheels move. It really would. So I don't see it.
I don't even know if they could get a first. They can absolutely ask for a first. I don't even know if teams would give that.
I don't think they would.
I don't think teams would give that because it's not a quarterback.
Right.
It's not a quarterback. I think if I would say the safe money is what I would take. DK stays.
So we are coming up on 2 hours here. I know we spent a little time trying to iron out the technical difficulties earlier, but let's run off these last few Dynasty buys and then wrap up the stream. What do you say?
Okay. I got a couple more. I'll just wrap this up here quickly. Couple of veteran wide receivers that I think are decent buy lows. Again, one is maybe for regardless of your situation, and another one is definitely if you're just a contender. I'll start with the contender. Like if you're a contender and you're looking for maybe like a bargain option at wide receiver, Adam Thielen. I think this is easy, and we've talked about Adam Thielen on this stream several times this offseason. He's older. Is he 32?
Yes.
33 at this point.
He's 32.
Oh, he's 31. He'll be 32 in August.
That's what I mean. He'll be 32 for the season.
He'll be 32 for this 2022 season. I think he's an excellent, again, buy low relative to the name for contending teams. I don't think it would take, similar to Kareem Hunt, I don't think it would take more than a second round pick. You could probably ask for a slightly higher second round pick because it's a wide receiver who all he does is catch touchdowns. But if there's a team in your league who is clearly, they're closer to a rebuild than not, or they're just not a contender and they have an Adam Thielen, I have to imagine a pick in the middle of the second round, maybe slightly better, gets it done for a player of Adam Thielen's caliber. I think he slots in regardless of your wide receiver depth right away. This Vikings offense is on the upswing. The vibes are good with their new coaching changes. I think they're going to throw the ball more than they have under Mike Zimmer. I think Adam Thielen it is an easy threat to go right back up to a double, to remain a double-digit touchdown scorer. For a second-round pick, if I feel like I have a team in the top half of the league, I'm doing that. Yeah,
I agree with everything you said. He's a guy that I brought up in past streams as a contender buy for sure. And he absolutely fits in as a dynasty discount because of his age.
Yep. And another guy I have, and I'll just finish this off here, is one more wide receiver. I think there's a little bit more flexibility regardless of your situation. It's Corey Davis. 27 years old. He'll be 27 for the course of the 2022 season. This is not a guy who you can possibly expect to be more than a wide receiver 3 for your team. Best case scenario. But the Jets are on paper an ascending situation. They look like a favorite to draft one of the premier options at wide receiver in this draft. So Davis might move down the depth chart a little bit. You can use this as leverage to lower the asking price. So maybe Davis is actually a player you wait to kind of snoop around on till after the draft, because we all expect the Jets to go hard on wide receiver. If they do, Davis's value is going to drop even further. I think you could get away with some highway robbery as far as acquiring Corey Davis. He's got 800+ yard upside in an ascending offense, a team that's looking to surround talent around Zach Wilson, their big arm second-year quarterback who looks like he can do a little something for fantasy purposes. Davis suffered from injuries last year. We don't project or expect injuries. So if he's able to get back healthy, year 2 in the offense, a little bit more comfortable, a little more comfort, a little bit more familiarity. I think Davis is a good discount right now for your wide receiver depth. Excellent wide receiver 4 or even 5 if you're strong at the position.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about age apex for wide receivers a lot. He is at age 27, which is the age apex for wide receivers. If you look at a guy even like who I compare him to, maybe not the same body type, but production-wise, Devontae Parker, who was a high first-round pick in dynasty leagues when he was first coming into the league. So was Corey Davis, along with Mike Williams there. But Corey Davis has struggled early in his career to get to sustain fantasy relevance, and same with Devontae Parker. But in Devontae Parker's age 27 season, he had 128 targets, and he had a high-end wide receiver 2, low-end wide receiver 1 year in his age apex season, in a year when nobody was expecting that from him. And I believe the same thing, if Zach Wilson can take a step forward, the same thing could be in play for Corey Davis. He's never been able to see sustained fantasy production, and even in the 1 year where he did, it was more because A.J. Brown got hurt, and he was locked into being his team's number 1 wide receiver with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. But now he's entering into his age apex season. I like that a lot for Corey Davis. And we talk a lot of, you mentioned second year in the offense. That was also a first-year head coach in Robert Saleh last year. So now it's also the coaching staff's second year. They're going to correct some of the errors that they made in their first year. They know their quarterback a little bit more, know what he does well, know what he doesn't do well, and have been in the rooms with Corey Davis and stuff, so they know what he does well too. So, yeah, I like Corey Davis there. I like that suggestion.
I think that wraps up my discounts.
All right, I got three real quick. One is Will Fuller, because he's basically free, because he didn't play last year, because he was MIA. He went MIA. He went MIA on his regular. MIA. Yeah, right. Boom, nailed it.
Got it.
But he's 28 years old, and last time we saw him, yes, he was on PEDs, but he was a wide receiver 1 when he was on the field with Deshaun Watson. Depending on where Will Fuller ends up landing, we've seen him be tied to Packers to get them a discounted field stretcher. We've seen him tied to go back to the Texans. We really don't know what is going on with Will Fuller, where his head's at, but I bet you right now, if you threw somebody an offer, hey, I got 2/4, will you give me Will Fuller, who may not ever play again in football because he was MIA for a full season when, by all accounts, he was pretty much healthy, and it was just more a headspace type deal with Will Fuller? That would probably get it done. I would be very surprised if it took more than 312, 311 to go and get Will Fuller on your team. So that's a guy there, and that's only for a contender, and it's only because he is basically free right now, because fantasy owners know you can't rely on Will Fuller even when he's healthy. And
maybe he reunites with Deshaun Watson.
There you go. He might, even though that wouldn't be good for my Anthony Schwartz shares, who I like a lot.
Just throwing out there, there's landing spots.
I got two running backs here that I want to wrap this up with, and they played in the same backfield last year and benefited from the same injury ahead of them at running back last year, and that's Donta Foreman and Dontrell Hilliard. We like backups. We like backups to old running backs. We like backups to oft-injured running backs. Under the radar signing, Donta Foreman is in Carolina now. He is the de facto backup to CMC. Now, I know Chuba Hubbard is there, but Chuba Hubbard sucks. Chuba Hubbard sucks.
Oof.
Chuba Hubbard had a 3.8 yards per carry in what should have been one of his best years to produce, because he's a young running back, first year in the league, and we talk a lot about as soon as the running backs come into the league, they start declining to a certain extent. We talk
they're
about
like
that.
a car.
They're like a car, right. 3.8 yards per carry in his first season. So Chuba Hubbard, I'm sorry, bro. Chuba Hubbard sucks.
Sorry, Chuba.
But Donta Foreman is 6'1", 236 pounds. So even if CMC stays healthy, there's a good chance Donta Foreman is the goal line back in Carolina, which bodes well for his standalone value to a certain extent. It does. And
takes potential. Like McCaffrey should be. They could split him out as a receiver, keep him healthy, put Foreman in the backfield a little bit more. Play them both. Play them both. Yeah,
they would be very smart too. And Donta Foreman, for what it's worth, he was the RB20 in standard leagues and the RB25 in PPR leagues from weeks 9 to weeks 18, in which Derrick Henry was injured. And that was while splitting work with the next guy that I'm going to bring up, Dontrell Hilliard. But to wrap up Donta Foreman, if CMC struggles or gets hurt again, gets injured, Donta Foreman can be a low-end RB2, which is very valuable for a fantasy team, and you should be able to get him on your team for a third-round pick, something like that. Because
I think I have Foreman in one of my leagues. Or you meant were you talking about Hilliard?
No, but the next person I'm going to bring up is Hilliard, because he is the sole backup to Derrick Henry, who is 28 years old, coming off an injury, and who was not particularly effective upon returning from his foot injury. So Dontrell Hilliard, 10.4 PPR points per game from weeks 11 to weeks 18, and the only other running backs on that roster are Jordan Wilkins and Trenton Cannon, who... Okay. So Dontrell Hilliard is the backup running back to a 28-year-old running back who just got injured way past his age apex. I believe Dontrell Hilliard is a sleeper. And yes, he had a good year last year, but would a late third, 2/4 get Dontrell Hilliard on your team? I believe so. I don't think you have to give up anything more than a third-round pick to get either Dontrell Hilliard or Donta Foreman on your team. And we've seen backup running backs perform very well in recent years. I mean, look at Mike Davis the year that CMC went down 2 years ago. He was a high-end RB1 for a good stretch of the season, and then he fell off a little bit, and by the end of season, he was a mid-tier RB2. All because he was the backup to CMC.
Yeah, still helpful, still valuable.
Donta Foreman, I think, a better running back than Mike Davis, even in Mike Davis's prime. So If CMC were to experience an injury, Donta Foreman to the moon. If Derrick Henry were to experience an injury, we've already seen the Titans have no issues giving Dontrell Hilliard a decent workload.
Yeah.
So I like both of those guys. And that wraps up my list.
There you go. A little bit of help as far as dynasty discounts for anybody who's playing and looking to maybe, look for some solid depth without having to break the bank.
Crumply heads, do it. Trade away Chris Carson.
Oh yeah,
for the
yeah. If you can do that
is a great deal.
If you can do that, I mean, I don't hate the fact that I was able to go on a Carson Wentz tangent, but yeah, if it's Chris Carson and you can flip him for Hines in a second, absolutely do that deal. Absolutely do that deal. Iron, we do like DPJ this season. John was talking about how Anthony Schwartz is that receiver in that room that's flying a little bit more under the radar. But
more of a value.
More of a value, yeah. Well, Donovan Peoples-Jones is definitely getting boosted a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, everybody in this Browns offense just naturally and organically gets a boost when playing with Deshaun Watson. So both DPJ and Anthony Schwartz are good values right now. Schwartz is more of a value because he seems to be flying more under the radar. But I'm okay. I like DPJ this year. Price went up, though. Price went up, I think, for him more than maybe it did Schwartz.
I don't even think it's a maybe. I know the price for DPJ went up more than
the price went up. If you have DPJ, hold. If you have him, hold. If you're looking to acquire, consider pivoting to Schwartz. You shouldn't have to give up as much.
And if you want to hear us go deep into Anthony Schwartz, rewind this live stream, and while you might have to put up, we'll clip it as well. You might have to put up with a little bit of technical difficulties, but he was the second player we talked about, probably about 20 minutes into the live stream. So check that out if you want to, but we will also clip it for you. And if it is really bad and laggy, then I will just record a whole nother video on why you should be paying attention to Anthony Schwartz. Not at the expense of DPJ, but maybe if you're looking for more of a discount. So, yeah. Yeah, I think that does it.
There you go. Yep, I think that about does it for tonight. Appreciate everybody sticking with us through the technical difficulties. Appreciate everybody's questions, comments, thoughts over the course of the stream. As always, this is the highlight of the week, getting to hang out with everybody and talking fantasy, talking dynasty with less than a month ago before the NFL draft.
And just a reminder, we will be streaming during the entire NFL draft, all 3 days, so tune in then. We also, to all you members who might have missed it in the Discord, we will be having our first members-only live stream tomorrow. Same time, same place. First Wednesday stream we've ever done. So, if you can get Schwartz for Sterling Shepard, I would do that all day, Rojo.
Hell yes. Hell yes.
To anybody who wants to become a member, we would love it. Love to have you on board. Not a necessity, but we would love to have you on board. There are some perks that come along with that. And to all you members, we will be doing our first one-on-one team consults after the members only live stream, if you didn't catch that on the Discord as well. So AB, it'll be at 6 p.m. EST.
6 p.m. Eastern.
And it will be a shorter members-only stream because we want to be able to fit in a good amount of time and devote a good amount of time to the one-on-one team consults. And if you want to reserve your spot, go over into the Discord, reserve your spot.
Yep. And for anyone who's not in the Discord, that's available to anybody, the general public or members. That link is in the description of all of our videos moving forward. We can continue the conversation over there. If you have questions or you just want to talk fantasy, hit that link. We'll get you. The invite is there.
Yep, it's in the description.
Happy to talk.
Yep.
Happy to talk.
3 p.m. for Raiders Nation. There you go.
There you go. Yes, sir. Yeah, 3 p.m. for me as well.
All right. Well, there you go. Hey, all right, guys. We are going to sign off for today. But thanks again, and we hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. And for you members, we'll see you tomorrow. And for everybody else, we'll see you on Thursday.
Yep. Have a good night, everybody.